Hello there beautiful humans, my name is RidersDX and welcome to my channel where today we've got a pretty interesting topic to talk about today. Okay, so it is Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 related, but it's not actually like anything that I've seen too many people bring up, but it's definitely something I'm seeing start to spread around a little bit. And I think it does bring up some interesting discussion points that I just wanted to address over here. And so there is some concern that Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 is going to be a rushed product, and I kind of had some thoughts related to this, like as the game was being announced and the release date became clear to us. Like I initially thought that this game was going to come out next year, because I feel like that's something I would have expected them to do if they wanted to like make sure that the game was like up to snuff with the quality and such that people really want to see for this game that wasn't apparent in the first game. But of course the game is going to be coming out later this year on October 24th as previously confirmed, and so it definitely is going to be a very quick timetable from this game's announcement to the game coming out, which is very typical of most game mode games. But I kind of thought the Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 would be the exception, but that doesn't look like to be the case. And so I caught eye of this article. Nick Brawl 2 has all the signs of being a rush product, and I just wanted to read through it and kind of commentate on it, you know, see what parts I agree with and some parts I disagree with, and then you all can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, because I do think it is a fair discussion to have, because I feel like the first game was rushed, unfortunately, because it didn't even come with things like voice lines when it first came out, which it looks like the second game is going to correct with a bunch of other things. But is it truly enough to be a full-fledged platform fighter within 2 years? That's something that remains to be seen. So let's take a look at this article. Nickelodeon All Star Brawl launched in October 2021, and now, less than 2 years later, a sequel is set to follow. It seems miraculous, especially considering art director Diego Hernandez has said 98% of the game's assets are built from scratch. But looking at how the first entry was at launch, I'm not optimistic. That is a good point. You know, they didn't just take like everything from the first game and just port it over to the second game. They remade just about everything from scratch, which sounds really impressive. I'm really glad that they took that direction, but it's like, well, you had to rebuild the game from the ground up within 2 years. So that's definitely something that I'm like, is a 2-year timetable really enough for that? Let's keep going. All Star Brawl had levels that could barely reach 20 frames per second upon release. The game chugged and stuttered, but even when it was working, you had to contend with clunky characters and awkward controls that paled in comparison to Super Smash Bros. And were immediately outshined by multiverses. It simply wasn't good, right down to its foundations, so it's no wonder Fair Play Labs start again from scratch. I'll kind of disagree with that. I do think maybe the game doesn't control as fluidly as Super Smash Bros. And I think between this and Multiverses, it's kind of hard to say. I do think Multiverses had more original ideas than this game did, so it does have that in its corner. But I still felt like the first game played pretty well. I enjoyed playing as SpongeBob as much as I did, and I thought it was mechanically just fine. But I'm not like a really intense platform fighter player, so there's a lot of things I'm just probably not picking up on that other players have picked up on. So I'll just leave it at that. But I do think that the game was still fun at its very core, which is what this article does not agree with. However, starting over is only half the battle. The one thing Nickelodeon All Star Brawl needed most was more time in the oven. Very true. There were no voice lines at launch, getting into matches with friends was a headache, cross-platform play wasn't supported, and the roster of fighters and stages was incredibly limited. The sequel could learn from this by spending more time getting the basics right, but given it's only months away, things aren't looking good. I will say, a bunch of this stuff is already refuted that the article mentioned, because the game is going to have voice lines at launch, it's going to have crossplay, and hopefully the online experience will be just as good, if not better, than the previous game. And in terms of the fighters and stages, we've already seen a bunch of the fighters and stages are coming back. Remains to be seen if they're all coming back, but we also see a whole bunch of new players and stages being added into the mix as well. And so it does look like it's a game that's still building up on the original, despite the fact that everything is remade from the ground up. So I do think this game will have a better shot with content at least. And we also already know there's 4 players that are going to be added as post DLC next year. And so that's still going to be something that's going to help keep this game alive going forward. Even by platform fighting standards, 2 years isn't enough. Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U took several years to develop, and that's a Nintendo product. Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 has taken less time and is far more ambitious. It's set to include a campaign with rogue-like mechanics, a boss rush mode, and minigames. That's a lot to juggle on top of the usual competitive platform fighting and content seen in the first game, which I once again mentioned wasn't up to standard. I do see the point here, and I do kind of agree with it. You know, I'm really excited by like all the new things this game wants to add on to the top of the core experience that the game is already offering, but it is a lot, and just because you're adding all this stuff doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good. And we've seen this time and time again, especially with licensed games. You know, they add all these different features. Like the immediate example I could think of is like the what is it called? The 2-player mode in Valve Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, a mode that seemed really like interesting and exciting at first, but once we got our hands on it, it's like they should just spend more time in the core experience, because this is a total waste of time. So I'm not saying that the single player mechanic here is going to be a waste of time, but I mean, if they don't have a lot of time to work on it and make it like the best that it could be, then it may very well be something that they shouldn't have attempted in the first place. So we'll just have to see. I do think that like there's a ton of features here that seem very exciting, but it remains to be seen if it's going to be like something that's worthy of being in this game, and if it's going to detract from the core experience or not. Development will have started during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're still feeling its impact on game development today, with myriad broken launches and PC ports that aren't worth the price of admission. Again, from some of the biggest players in the industry. Just look at The Last of Us Part 1 and Redfall. Rushing games is always a bad idea, but especially so today. There has to be room for polishing and testing, both things that were clearly rushed with the first Nickelodeon All Star Brawl. The sequel could be a chance to remedy that, and taking a chance on failed games to build something better should always be encouraged, but looks like history is only going to repeat itself here. It's saying more of the same stuff overall in this part of the article, which, you know, like I said, there's a lot of obstacles that are in their way to make this game as good as it can be, especially under the 2-year timetable, but they've also had the experience in the very first game, so they've already overcome a bunch of hurdles that they had to overcome the first game. Even though they're remaking everything from the ground up, they know what works, what doesn't a little bit better now, and I'm hoping that that experience will lead to a better game overall. Even moving away from the concerns about its quality, taking more time will ensure that Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 has a better release window. It's launching in the busiest months of 2023. In September, we'll get our hands on Starfield and Mortal Kombat 1, followed by Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and Assassin's Creed Mirage in October. Not only does it have a whole library of heavy hitters to stand out from, but a new entry into one of the biggest fighting franchises. It's a strange date to launch a sequel to platform fighter few liked, and feels more like burying it in the noise. I will say, the release date is a complete bafflement to me. Not only do you have Spider-Man 2 and Super Mario Bros. Wonder coming out on the same day, you also have Sonic Superstars, so that's 4 really big games that I'm personally looking forward to coming out on the same exact day. Who thought this was a good idea? And you know, this doesn't really go into impact the game that much, but DreamWorks Kart Racing is also coming out on the same day, so I have no idea what Game Mill is doing when it comes to this release date. This is a totally easy thing, you know, just spacing it out, you know, maybe putting it out a week or two later. I mean, I just don't understand why it has to be on this date specifically. But this week happens to be my birthday week, so hey, more ways to celebrate for me, I guess, is all I'm gonna say. Of course, there's always a possibility that I'm wrong and Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 will be the best platform fighter in years, and that's why the team is confident it will stand out. But you'd have to ignore every single red flag to go into it with that belief. Right now, I'm not optimistic, and all signs are pointing to another rushed game. And so, you know, I'm personally very excited for Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2. I think it looks great. I think it looks like a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to all the new features that they're adding into it and all the new fighters and such. But I will say, I am a little concerned about how fast this game is coming out. Like I said, I totally thought this game was going to come out in the next year, but the fact that it's coming out just 2 or 3 months from now is pretty insane, you know, to be honest. It's a really quick timetable, but even though this game only had 2 years of development, you got also think about the fact that the game is being built on top of the first one. Even though everything's being remade from scratch, that doesn't take away the experience and the good things and bad things that they took from the first game. And so obviously they remade everything, but they knew exactly what they were doing going into this game. So you have that, and you already have a bunch of the movesets figured out and such. Obviously a lot of things are being remade and such, like I said, but like I said, these people already have the experience that they got from the first game, and they're learning from that to make this second game. And so I really do think that this game is going to be in better shape than the first game overall, just based off of that alone. But if you're also thinking about the fact, like, is this game going to stand up with Super Smash Bros., I feel like that's something that should just be taken out of the equation at this point, because the answer is no. That's not going to happen. That game had all the resources and all the time in the world to be like the greatest game that it can be, and that's just simply not a reality for this game. No matter how much Game Mill throws at it, it's only a fraction of what Nintendo drew at Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So we just gotta take that out of the equation. This game is not going to be a suitable opponent to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Like, that's not gonna happen. But is it going to be a worthwhile game on its own? I think that's very much a possibility. And I think that Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 maybe won't be the biggest platform fighter in the world, but because of how solid, in my opinion, the first game already was, and everything that they learned from that first game, and all the things that we already know are going to be in this game, like the voice lines, the crossplay, the slightly different mechanics and fighting, the story mode and such, I think that this game is definitely going to be better than the first game. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that this game is going to be better. Whether or not it's like a 5-star out of this world, like critical acclaim game is a whole nother story. But I mean, like, I guess level your expectations, you know? You're not going to get a game that's going to be the next Smash Bros. Like, that's not going to happen. But I think you are going to get a perfectly competent platform fighter that really does take advantage of the source material. That's what I think we're going to get, and that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm just looking forward to a fun time beating up Squidward with SpongeBob, you know, or using handsome Squidward to take out Aang and Korra in one swoop. Like, come on. It's going to be a fun time as long as the game works just fine, which I have no doubt that's going to. So those are my overall thoughts on this article, and I'm overall much more optimistic about this game than I think this person was, but I will say that they do bring up some good points, and we'll just have to wait and see if 2 years is enough time to make this game truly shine. I really am not opposed to them taking longer to make this game like better if that was what they needed, but nonetheless, when the game comes out in October, I'm sure it will be a perfectly fine experience. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but it looks solid so far, and I think we're also going to be getting some close looks very, very soon. So we'll get to see a lot more of the game in action in a short time. So looking forward to that. I'll definitely cover that when that stuff comes out. Okay, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if there's any other videos you want me to make about Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2, then let me know that in the comment section as well. But alright, y'all, thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you want to stay up to date on Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 content. Every time we get something new, I'm gonna be one of the first people to report on it. So thank you all so much. This is Riders, riding out.